look for Lauren. Okay, so we're broadcasting.
Okay, well, good evening. I'd like to call the Wilton Board of Education regular meeting, June 4th, to order. Have members had a chance to review the agenda? Okay, Mandy, I see you nodding your head. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for the second. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No. All right, Lucille, did we receive any public comments?
No, we have not.
Okay. And again, for anyone listening, we always end the meeting with public comments, and the directions on how to do that are on the agenda. I'd like now a motion to approve the consent agenda, but removing item 5.
So moved.
Thank you, Mandy, and I'll take Glenn that as second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start this meeting with recognition. This is June. It's the season for all sorts of happy occasions and end of the year celebrations. And as much as we can, we are going to do them even if it's in a slightly or a very different environment. So every year we recognize the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education student leaders. I'm not sure if everyone is on at this time and able to do that because I lost Kevin. There you are. Sorry, Kevin. Are we ready to do the CABE, or should we do some other recognition first?
We can start. So we'll start with the high school, and we'll try to get Lauren Feltz on so we can do recognize our middle school students. But why don't we, first of all, this is one of my favorite meetings of the year because we get to celebrate and recognize so many people, and it's always.
That would not be happening.
Dr. O'Donnell, and we'll recognize our 2 high school leaders.
Sure. So we're very honored this evening to have our 2 CABE Award winners, Emma Cantor and Nishant Wanyeo. And we also, I believe, have some of their parents on, so we congratulate them as well. And Don will do the first introduction, and I will then introduce Nishant. So Don?
Yes, good evening. And this is one of the happiest parts of my job, of course. And tonight I have the privilege of speaking about Emma Cantor, who is one of our CABE Award winners. And Emma has excelled in a very demanding course load throughout her entire high school career. In addition to her academic successes, Emma has also been involved in an extensive list of extracurricular activities, including the National Honor Society, Safe Rides, Wilton High School varsity cheerleading, Top Inclusion Models, the Yearbook Committee, where she is chief co-editor, the Saturn App Brand Ambassador, and the Extreme Cheer All-Stars International Competitive Team. Yes, she actually did all those things. She was also honored with the state of Connecticut's AP Spanish Biliteracy Seal. Emma's leadership skills are unmatched. For instance, she was selected to participate in the XCA Leadership Program, where the X stands for excellence, C for good character, and A for a positive attitude. Student athletes who possess these characteristics apply for a leadership position in the program and are selected to mentor and lead younger athletes. The goal of the program is not only to teach student athletes to be the best competitive athlete, but also to learn to be compassionate, committed, and accountable. Additionally, last year, Emma was nominated by the Wilton High School faculty to be a member of the Homework Committee, helping to discuss ways to improve both the quality and the quantity of homework here at our high school, with the ultimate goal of reducing student stress. Finally, throughout grades 10 through 12, Emma has held a job where she was given supervisory duties. She has truly emerged as a leader in all activities. Her commitment to the school community and her willingness to take initiative are admirable. Emma is strong, independent, and resilient. She has an amazing moral compass and is not easily swayed. She's a competitor, and her involvement with sports has provided her with the opportunity to travel, become a leader, develop tough skin, learn how to set goals, manage her time, be organized, and practice true dedication. Emma's determination, ambition, and leadership qualities set her apart. She's a remarkable young woman who is respectful, polite, and humble. She will be attending the University of California, Davis in the fall, and it was my pleasure to make these aspects of her achievement known to you all, and please join me now in congratulating her for her tremendous career at our high school.
I wish I could see Emma. So congratulations, Emma. Well deserved. I got tired just listening to all of your accomplishments. So congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
there you are. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Emma.
Thank you.
Yeah, our board congratulates you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so our second CABE honoree is Nishant Wanyeo. And is Nishant visible to anybody on our screens?
Not mine.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna acknowledge him publicly here.
Okay.
And we also want to congratulate Nishant's parents, Lena and Rohit, also on this amazing accomplishment.
I have to say, Nishant is on the screen.
here.
You guys
Yeah.
can't see him.
Awesome. Okay. Nishant Wanyeo
Well, I'll
is a
just go
dedicated student who has proven his academic strength overall in the rigorous, challenging courses he has chosen to take while at Wilton High School, earning highly successful grades and a 3.8 grade point average. Additionally, Nishant has devoted much of his time to helping others acquire computer skills, particularly younger students and those for whom these concepts may be very difficult to learn. A 2020 National Merit Commended student, Nishant has been enrolled in a very demanding program of study, including some of the most difficult courses offered at Wilton High School. Nishant is ambitious and innovative. He has reached out to neighboring communities to teach younger children computer skills through his own nonprofit company, School of Code. All of the classes he teaches are free and are held at local libraries. Not wanting any child to be left behind due to financial constraints, Nishant raised funds to purchase 7 laptops for his program. He raised over $2,500 to bring his program to towns with limited resources. Nishant has also worked with the Wilton Baptist Church, the Rotary Club, and the Wilton Chamber of Commerce on various website and database projects. Nishant is a member of the App Club and the Robotics Club at Wilton High School. This past summer, he participated in a summer program at Cooper Union in New York, working on a software program project to reduce food waste in New York City, with other high school students from the tri-state area who share his passion for computer technology. This past fall, Nishant was selected as a student member of the State Student Advisory Council on Education. He applied for this prestigious position, sat for a number of interviews, including one with Governor Lamont, and was ultimately selected as a student representative. His responsibilities have included attending 1 all-day meeting a month with other members of the council. Nishant's participation in this endeavor allowed him to be a voice for other students throughout our state of Connecticut. Nishant's personal goals revolve around sharing his skills with others, particularly younger students. He is continuously seeking to acquire additional knowledge to deepen his understanding and to gain experience. He would like to pursue a college major in computer science engineering with a focus on artificial intelligence and research into increasing K-12 computer education. This fall, Nishant plans to attend Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. We present Nishant Wanyeo to the prestigious Wilton Public Schools Board of Education. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your kind words, Dr. O'Donnell.
You're welcome,
And
Nishant.
good luck to you. What was it like interviewing with Governor Lamont?
It was interesting. It was a kind of a new experience for me, but yeah.
I guess. All right. Well, good luck to you. Congratulations, both you and Emma. Again, those are wonderful awards and well deserved. Thank you. And thanks for coming on tonight. Wish we could see you in person, but we absolutely wanted to make sure we recognized you. So thank you. Thank you. And congratulations. Thank you.
Well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks. So now we'll turn it over to Lauren Feltz to present our two Middlebrook CABE leadership winners.
Yes, thank you. It is my honor to present Middlebrook's CABE leaders for 2019-2020. These are both students that I've had the chance to get to know personally, and I really hope that each of you will have a chance to collaborate with them over the course of their high school careers. They are tremendously special young people, and they are just bursting with potential. First, I'd like to congratulate Grace Biondo. Gracie was elected by her peers as Middlebrook's Vice President of the Student Government. She is an energetic force when it comes to taking the seed of an idea and seeing it through to fruition. Gracie is a poised and eloquent young lady, and so it's no surprise that she's a debate champion, emerging as a strong member of Middlebrook's robust debate team. Gracie is a kind, down-to-earth person who avoids drama and actively takes steps to enhance her school community. This includes serving as a web mentor for a group of 6th graders and as a member of our Upstanders Club. She encourages responsibility in her peers and helps groups stay on track with her focused leadership. On behalf of Middlebrook staff, we're thrilled to celebrate Gracie.
Thank you very much, Ms. Feltz.
We just can't wait to see the good work that you do as you move forward, honey. Our second CABE leader this year is Quinn Silva. Quinn exudes positivity and is a model of kindness in action. He is always willing to help others, both peers and adults, and he follows through on those good intentions with a consistency that is rarely seen at any age. Quinn is empathetic and caring. In many little ways, he shows how he pays attention to others. He really gets to know them, and he demonstrates his empathy and care with both his words and his deeds. Quinn is enthusiastic about school. When he encounters a challenge, he is able to acknowledge it, but to persist without letting it stop him. Quinn is honest and hardworking. In nominating him for this honor, his teachers said that Quinn's goal is personal happiness rather than academic achievement, but they note that he's still an A student. When I think about all of the fine qualities that his teachers have shared about him, it seems to me that we would all do well to try to follow the example set by this young man. In this time of school closure, as we take steps to celebrate our graduating 8th graders, we've invited both Grace and Quinn to share some thoughts on behalf of their peers as part of our virtual Soaring Ahead ceremony. And I hope that you'll all take the time to enjoy hearing directly from these dynamic young people. I know that I'm not alone when I say that I'm really excited to see what they do next. So it's our pleasure to celebrate them on behalf of the Middlebrook staff.
Congratulations, and that's wonderful. Thank you, Lauren, and congratulations, both of you. Outstanding work, and only in middle school, so thank you so much. So.
Great, well done. Students, don't feel like you have to stay for the remainder of the board meeting. You're certainly welcome, but we imagine you may have a few other things on your agendas tonight.
That's right. Keep saving the world, like all of those profiles sounded like you were. So do your good stuff, and thanks for coming tonight, and congratulations to the families. And absolutely feel free to jump off this meeting because it will continue, and we know your time is probably better suited to other pursuits. So thank you and congratulations again. All right, so we go from some student recognition, outstanding students, to sort of a bittersweet moment, which is recognizing our retirees this year. We wish we could do this in person, but we thought it important to at least get you on virtually. Every year, you know, we see tremendous experience and dedication leaving the Wilton Public Schools. So we thank you in advance for everything, and we're glad just to be able to spend maybe a couple of minutes recognizing your role in the Wilton schools and all you've done during your career. So Kevin, I'm not sure how you wanted to organize this, but we're happy, delighted, and also a little sad to see all these people go.
Yes, it's always bittersweet, and we have the best teachers here in the state of Connecticut, if not in the country. And these folks have been working beyond overtime in the last 3 months to do what needs to be done to support their students. So we have 7 staff members who are retiring, and while I'm very happy for them, I am heartbroken for us because we lose great colleagues and great student advocates and just tremendous educators. So we'll have Maria facilitate this portion, and each of our administrators is going to just take a moment and present each of the retirees.
Yes, I couldn't have said that better myself. As we know, the staff that we have here are at the core of all that we do in the Wilton Public Schools, and we present this group of people this evening with mixed emotions. Certainly, we wish them all the very best in their retirement because they have dedicated their lives to supporting students and families and to Wilton's children. They've put great heart and soul into the work that they've done. And so naturally, we wish them, first of all, rest and plenty of time to pursue other passions in life. But this is a tremendous loss to us this evening, and I think you'll hear as the principals share their testimony for each staff member some of the wonderful things that they've done, but certainly it's not an exhaustive list. And we just, again, want to reaffirm the fact that we feel so lucky to have had these people working with us over the years. We're going to go in the order of schools. We'll start with Miller Driscoll. We actually don't have any Cider Mill retirees, and I think all but 2 were able to join us this evening. So Kathy, we'll start with your retiree at Miller Driscoll.
All right. So although I've had the pleasure of working with Kevin Meehan for only a couple of years at Miller Driscoll School, he has dedicated the last 22 years to teaching students in Wilton. At his retirement celebration at the end of February, a longtime colleague of his, Sarah Quantock, shared many of his accomplishments, not to mention some very funny stories that I will not be sharing tonight. But one accomplishment was raising over $18,000 to build a school for girls in Pakistan. In addition, she said about Kevin, everything I know about science, I learned from you. You opened my eyes to a world that I hadn't even noticed, and for that, I will be forever grateful. That said, I need to tell you a little bit about the huge impact he had on our school in such a short time. Kevin reinvigorated our science program through not only his instructional practices, but also his sheer joy for the subject matter. He'd show up at school with ideas for new projects, things to plant and grow, and of course, random animals, which again made the STEAM lab and the Outdoor Learning Center a wonderful place to learn. I would get calls. Do you know there's a chicken in the OLC? There's some bunnies in the STEAM lab. It was absolutely amazing. So thanks to Kevin for everything that he's done to inspire scientists young and old throughout Wilton.
And now we'll move on to Middlebrook.
It helps to unmute yourself. As you said, it really is bittersweet having members of the Middlebrook family move on to new adventures, and we certainly wish our retirees well. This spring marks the retirement for Mrs. Ellen Emerson. In her role as paraprofessional, Ellen has been a key factor in helping many students find success at Middlebrook. She's been an essential support to many staff members as well. We thank Ellen for her dedication and her commitment throughout her 9 years of service to Wilton Public Schools and to the children of Wilton. And Ellen, we wish you joy in your next adventure. You will be dearly missed.
Thank you, Lauren.
This year also marks the end of a 37-year teaching career for Lori Ulrich. In a recent message to her colleagues, Lori said that she felt that she had struck gold when she was hired as the math teacher for the 6th Red team at Middlebrook. And during her 17 years in that role, Lori has seen the math department through tremendous change and growth, including her critical collaboration this year to help create the new 6th grade math course. At the same time, she's been an integral member of her team's boundless commitment to supporting sixth graders as they make the bold leap into secondary education. Lori, you will be missed, and we wish you well on your new adventures. I want to say both to Lori and to Ellen that we're sorry that we weren't able to celebrate you in person at Middlebrook, and we certainly hope to have you back someday soon when we're able to gather so that we can cheer for you in person. And until that time, please know that I bring the best wishes and high hopes of the whole staff as I say that we wish you health, wealth, and happiness, and lots of time to enjoy the things that drive you and are your passion. So best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will miss you all, and I thank you all very much for a wonderful career and for all that I've learned. So thank you so much.
Self as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
End of an era.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will move on to the high school.
Yeah, so this is extremely difficult because we have 4 retirees, and I just looked out and I saw Martine Berlier and Rich Vogel, and I haven't seen them in so long. It just brought tears to my eyes. I miss those guys so much, and Carol and Roseanne. These are 4 of literally what I consider to be my closest colleagues at the high school. They're wonderful people, and we wish them such great success in retirement. So happy for them. I'm going to introduce Martine. Chris is going to introduce or pay tribute to Roseanne, and then Don will do so for Carol Thurkettle and Dr. Richard Vogel. So Martine, bonsoir, madame. Martine has been a member of the faculty at Wilton High School for 21 years, during which time more than 2,000 students have been fortunate to have studied with her. Over the years, Martine has taught all levels of French and has tirelessly grown the French program at Wilton High School through her enthusiasm and dedication to her students and her craft. She has led numerous field trips, established a chapter of the French Honor Society, and regularly participated in the annual festival by spreading awareness of current events in the Francophone world. Martine's students learn through her tremendous passion and firsthand knowledge of her subject area. In the classroom, she establishes an immersive environment where the French language and culture truly come alive, and only the target language can be heard. Students love Madame Berlier because she pushes them to meet their fullest potential, yet in a manner that is artfully balanced with warmth and compassion. Martine has left a lasting impression on many of her students, including alumni like David Hernandez and Harriet Slagle, best friends from Wilton High School class of 2013. David writes, Madame Berlier is one of my favorite teachers from my time at WHS. I got to study for a couple years with her and work with her in French Honor Society. She taught me everything I know about French language and culture, and she was always kind, caring, and funny. I'll always remember the good times I had in her class, even though she sat me right in front for the whole year so that I would not stop chatting. We would read Le Petit Prince and Astérix and Obélix, do grammar exercises in our notebooks, and do slightly chaotic activities in class or in the lab. Félicitations, madame. Have a happy retirement. Harriet and I will do our best to visit you again in Paris sometime soon. Harriet writes, Dear Madame Berlier, congratulations on your retirement, and thank you so much for providing us with such a wonderful language experience at WHS. I couldn't have asked for a better French teacher. I greatly appreciate your patience, especially with all of my antics in class with David over the years. Your class left me with many delightful and funny memories to reflect on. I had a great time visiting you last year, and hopefully we will be able to meet again sometime in the future. Maybe David can come too. All jokes aside, I wish you the very best in wherever life takes you next. Martine, you have clearly left an indelible mark on the Department of World Languages and the greater Wilton High School community. We are indebted to your service and your friendship. Thank you so much, and our sincere best wishes in a long and healthy retirement. Madame Martine Berlier.
Okay, it's my honor and privilege to recognize Roseanne D. Simone, our retiree from the Wilton High School's Health and Physical Education Department. Roseanne has been a part of Wilton High School for the past 30 years, actually the district for the past 30 years. She first came here as the Director of School Health Services for the district. But for the past 23 years, she's been the health teacher at the high school, primarily working with grades 9, 11, and 12. It's safe to say at some point in their high school career, Mrs. D. Simone has taught each and every student in the high school. Roseanne is a very, very caring individual. She obviously cares about her students, but on many occasions throughout the school year, you can walk through her classroom and see her speaking or counseling a colleague who may be dealing with something or just needs someone to talk to. Roseanne is just that type of person. I know she helped me through a tough time when I lost my father about 5 years ago. Roseanne D. Simone may be retiring, but she's not done with Wilton. She has agreed to become a member of the district's reopening committee, and with her expertise of health and safety, I have no doubt her service on this committee will be as exemplary as she is. We will miss you, Roseanne, and I wish you the very, very best in retirement.
When I spoke to Roseanne earlier this week and talked to her about her retirement and what the plans she had, I couldn't resist pressing her back into service because she is just such a profound expert. And so she joyfully said yes and actually started some of that work yesterday, and she'll continue with us as we continue our planning.
That's great. That's great.
So turning next at the high school, we have Carol Thurkettle.
Yay, Carol.
Carol has been a dedicated employee at the Wilton Public Schools for 24 years. She's been the administrative assistant for numerous administrators, including Maria Coleman and myself, along with Linda Siliberti during her days as a dean, and most recently she supported Amy Korn and Greg Terriall. She is a key staff member on the main office team and the first person to greet everyone when they walk in the door. Carol has the unique ability to be patient with all our visitors, whether they're students, parents, or teachers. She's able to find the humor in many situations, and her cheerful laughter is a common sound in the main office. Students always knew they had a sympathetic friend in the main office who would help them spur the moment with any problem whatsoever. And whenever a big job needed her attention, like scheduling rooms for big state tests or organizing our schedules, Carol was a superstar. She enjoys traveling with her husband, Tom, during school vacations, and she loves UConn basketball, particularly UConn women's basketball. She likes to regale coworkers with stories of her travels and everything she's seen at the high school over the years, which is quite a lot. While we will definitely miss Carol greatly in the main office, we wish her the best in her retirement, and we hope that she and her husband, Tom, have the opportunity to travel soon. Carol, thanks so much for all your dedicated service and best wishes for tons of health, relaxation, and happiness. Dr. Richard Vogel. Where and how do I begin this one? Dr. Richard Vogel shared his love of life and literature with his students for more than 40 years. His practice was animated by several key tenets. First, a strong belief that literature invites students into a space where they can vicariously experience the full range of the human condition and rehearse their own contributions to its pageantry. Then, two, a strong belief that teaching students to read and write helps them see they are not alone. Experiences are meant to be shared, and readers and authors participate in the most wonderful of compacts. Finally, a conviction that each person needs to find their own truth and follow its inner light. A disciple of Thoreau, Dr. Vogel helps students explore the notion, from Thoreau's book Self-Reliance, that a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, adored by little statesmen. Through the portal of this idea lies a path towards independent and innovative thought. On more than one occasion, Dr. Vogel used this principle to steer us all away from mindless conformity and stimulate a search for our true selves. Dr. Vogel is a successful coach, director, and renowned author of a book on how to prepare for the AP English language examination. He's a wonderful friend to all his colleagues. His generosity is the stuff of legend. He never lets anyone else pay when the faculty heads out for a Friday afternoon repast. Each December, a holiday gift sits on every seat in the humanities workroom, with Rich as the selfless benefactor of over 20 Christmas, Hanukkah, or Festivus mementos. Rich's was the only classroom where parents could eat from a gourmet cheese board along with swanky crackers and fruit during back-to-school night. So this man is a class act. And if you were to visit his classroom, you would find students engaged in the act of pursuing critical thought, dialogue, understanding, and literary adventure. And you'd find kids who love their teacher. That's quite a legacy to leave. Our learning community owes Dr. Vogel much gratitude. We were lucky enough to poach him some years ago from his former district in New York. When his old colleagues reached out years after his departure, they asked, "Where are you and what are you doing?" "The same thing I've always done," he replied, acting as a positive influence on the lives of young people. Somehow, I don't think retirement will end that influence. We nevertheless congratulate Dr. Vogel on a well-deserved retirement and wish him many years of health, happiness, and an endless supply of fellowship and good books, just rewards for a humanist, scholar, teacher, and mentor. Dr. Vogel, Wilton High School thanks you.
Yeah.
And at the risk of being repetitive, I will say that I can personally attest to each person that was introduced tonight because I worked with each of them in the buildings over the years. And Carol Thurkettle worked with me in my first year as an administrator, and I still hear her voice in my office saying that I need to police my area when my desk is getting a little bit messy. So Carol, just know I will make sure that I'm living up to all that you taught me over the years. And to everyone that we're saying goodbye to tonight, as I've said in our exit interviews, don't be surprised if we come a knocking when we need a long-term substitute or someone to come in to fill in for one of those positions, because we love to welcome you back and we hope that you will come back someday. So thanks to everyone. And this isn't goodbye, but hopefully until we see each other again.
Yeah. Yeah, and on behalf of the Board of Education, these few minutes in which you were introduced and described, they can't begin to capture a career. In some ways, I beat Maria a little bit. I've worked with many of you. I've hired some of you. My children had some of you. So I know how much you are woven into the fabric of the Wilton Public Schools. And to see you leave certainly is bittersweet. But we appreciate the legacy you've left, your contributions to our standards of excellence, and all the lives that you've touched in our kids and our staff. So thank you, thank you. And I know this is a rather strange way to do it, through a computer, but I hope you understand just how grateful we are. So thank you and congratulations. Kevin, I think we have others to recognize as well for this year's contributions on the volunteer side.
Sure do. And I'll echo, all that's been said about our departing colleagues. They're wonderful and left indelible marks here in the district and will certainly be missed. Speaking of indelible marks, I'd like to start with our PTA presidents. One of our core values in this district is our partnership with parents. And one of the ways that I partner with parents is in my relationships with our PTA presidents. And so many of you, I think a number of you board members have probably been PTA presidents in your own careers. And so you know that that's more than a full-time job when you are in that role, working alongside the principal in support of the teachers and our kids, and just managing the well-being and the enhanced activities in schools is just an incredible effort and requires an amount of time that probably nobody has, but they do it, and they always do it with smiles on their faces. We burden them additionally by having them come and spend time with me each month. And in that time, I value tremendously their counsel, their partnership. I think we've established together a culture of candor. And so they really are problem solvers alongside me, alongside our administrators, as we're really working diligently to make our school system the best place it can be. And so I'm so grateful for all of them, for their time, for their efforts. And so I want to name them. At the high school, Lorianne Selmier has been just wonderful. She has a senior and I think a freshman. And so she sees both sides of it, and her history and experience has been a tremendous support. And I know Bob very much feels the same way. At Middlebrook, Chandra Ring. Chandra's got, I think, four children across our district. So we have a lot in common in our shared experiences. But similarly, Chandra is a wonderful partner. She has boundless energy. And anytime there is an offer to participate on a committee, she's one of the first to stand up and say yes. And she recently has brought her kids along with her on some of those committees. And so we've had not only the benefit of her expertise, but the insight of a couple of her children. So Chandra, we're tremendously grateful to you. At Sartor Mill, Carolyn Lyon and Megan Russo share that duty. And again,
oh, hi, Beck.
Carolyn has a number of kids across the, I think she's in, Carolyn, do you have kids in all four schools? Yeah, so 4, right? So again, just a wealth of experience. And, whenever I greet Carolyn, she always has a smile, and she's just another that has, incredible energy. And like her, Megan is an optimist and just willing to roll up her sleeves and do the great work that needs to be done in support of our kids. And this year at Miller Driscoll, we have co-presidents Annie Chochos and Lisa Panone, and those two, it's their first year in this role, and they have just been exceptional partners. And so I know Kathy relies on them. I certainly rely on them. And we've been able to cover a lot of territory this year, and even in these last recent months when we've been closed, they have just been so incredible in their insight and helping us inform and direct our program. So please know, for all of our PTA presidents, and I would be remiss if I didn't name Kara Berghaus, who is the newest president of our newest SEPTA, our newest parent-student group that particularly supports our special ed families. Like the others, Kara is always optimistic. Her energy can rival anyone. And she is on a mission that we support and we share, and our kids and our families are better as a result of Kara's work. So to all of you, I want to say on behalf of our board, the rest of our administration, you're wonderful. Your kids are wonderful. Your commitment to this district is unparalleled, and we couldn't do what we do without you doing what you do. And so we are tremendously grateful. And I want to just say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just echo Kevin for a minute. There's no such thing as an excellent school district without active, involved parents. And so thank you for your leadership role in making that partnership. And then this year in particular, the last third of the year, parent partnership has, evolved, grown in ways that you probably did not anticipate. None of us did. But thank you all so much for helping us during this crisis time as well as during a more normal time. So thanks for your special work this year. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been asked to say just a couple things, if that's okay, on behalf of everyone. So we just wanted to thank you on behalf of Wilton PTAs, PTSA, and SEPTA for inviting us tonight. This has been quite a year for the roles we thought we were stepping into were not the ones we ultimately held. As Wilton Public Schools pivoted in their teaching on March 11th, so did our organizations. We have each continued to work within our domains to best serve parents, teachers, and students during this time. We appreciate the continued dialogue with central office, our points of contact within the schools, teachers, students, and parents to work and serve Wilton community. Like the schools, each of our organizations are preparing to be adaptable and meeting new and changing needs of our constituents next year. These challenging times have afforded our organizations an opportunity to reframe our thinking in many areas and created unique opportunities for excellent collaboration among us. We'd like to thank all of our volunteers for their time, especially under less than ideal circumstances this year, and to thank the Turnover Shop for their continued support of our organizations, their donations allowing us to offer enhanced programming and gifts and grants annually. Even with the switch to a distant school environment, we are pleased to have been able to support the staff and students gifts and grants that number more than those listed this evening. The gifts and grants material provided tonight will be updated to accurately reflect before the June 11th meeting. With the portrait of school and the classroom unknown for the foreseeable future, we look forward to helping support Wilton Public Schools in bringing excellence to all members of the school community in the coming year. Thank you.
Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. And there's in addition to our PTA presidents, there's a couple of other really critical organizations I want to just take a moment to recognize. We are annually generously supported by the Wilton Education Foundation. And, that's a group I also have the privilege of meeting with monthly, although that's been, for obvious reasons, disrupted. So I just want to name and say thank you to their advisory board, to Ginny Yearall, Mike Whitman, Jim Kinnian, Julie Steckel, Jen Carvajal, Renee Cahill. I know there are others. These folks serve as the core leadership team, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with WEF and that work as we move forward in time here. We also want to take a minute and just recognize our booster clubs. We have groups of just tremendous parent supports. And so we have our athletics booster clubs, we have our music booster clubs, we have our theater booster club. And so, within those groups are, volunteers that are really too numerous to name at this point. But I want to make sure that in general, we just take a moment and recognize our booster clubs also for all the work that they do in support of our students and our enrichment and extracurricular activities. So thank you to all those folks as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So, and again, we apologize that it's not really in person, this recognition or this thank you, but you all have been adaptable. You've risen to the occasion. You've partnered, and we could not accomplish what we do in the Wilton schools without parents and volunteers and the help and support and energy you bring. So thank you very much. It's been an interesting year, and thank you for your part in it. Thank you so much. Okay, Kevin, I think that's it for the recognition. I'm hoping we didn't leave anyone out.
No, I think we're that's it for the recognition we have. Although I'm sure there are others.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so again, everyone is welcome to stay at the meeting. If you, can't do that, then of course, please feel free to sign off. We'll move on now to the less celebratory, less happy, less reminding us what we're all about portion of the meeting as we get into, some more difficult items. But again, thank you, and we're just really happy to have been able to do this celebration in June, even if it's been slightly different. For my board chair's report, on behalf of the board, I want to thank everyone for following the budget process this year and making your opinions known. As you probably all know, the Board of Finance on Monday night unanimously approved both the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen budget. We could not have done this without the activity of parent support. So thank you. And I'm sure the PTA leaders and the boosters had lots to do with that. So thank you. In addition, the Board of Finance established a larger than usual reserve fund to address possible COVID-related needs that go beyond budgets. So we are grateful that we will have the resources to help us address whatever next year will bring. And that is as yet to be determined, to be defined. It's a work in progress very much. I think we need to take a moment and talk a little bit and recognize the tragic death of George Floyd. And as Americans, whether we're living in Wilton or Minneapolis, we share in the horror of watching that video and seeing George Floyd die in the hands of the Minneapolis police. We also share in the horror of seeing violence erupt and overshadow the peaceful protests. As a whole board, we have not had a chance to discuss this situation. So as an individual Wilton board member, I'm hoping that our schools can help build a future where such incidents don't happen again. I'm someone who believes that education is essential to our democracy. Our schools aspire, among other goals, to prepare students to become responsible, contributing citizens who build a better world. So on a very general and systems level, we as a school district can ensure that students in age-appropriate ways study the events of the past carefully so they can understand the long history that led to the death of George Floyd. The Wilton schools can ensure students understand our Constitution and the founding principles of our country. We can help ensure students understand our institutions and systems, how they protect us, how they help our democracy function, how they uphold justice, and what happens if they fail. Our classrooms can be safe places for students to examine difficult and complex questions. To what extent have we lived up to our country's founding principles? How do we confront the history of racial inequality? How do we address the wounds of racial inequality? How are different points of view heard and respected within a democracy? How can citizens hold systems accountable? What forms are there of social protest? Why is violence never an acceptable reaction? How can citizens peacefully bring about meaningful change? The schools have been engaged in this work, but in this moment, we have the opportunity to help follow up the themes from the speeches made at the town gathering on Tuesday against racial inequality. It was heartening to see so many people attend, many of whom were students. As an individual, I felt an energy and a willingness to engage in difficult conversations. I know Dr. Smith and faculty members have been thinking about how to build on this important moment, and I'm sure Dr. Smith will be recommending the item for discussion at an upcoming meeting. So thank you. That's my report. And Dr. Smith, I'll hand it back to you.
Great, thank you. Just a couple of things, and I want to echo some of those sentiments, but first I want to just take a moment and recognize Dr. Falcone and her staff for the tremendous fifth grade car caravan that they hosted today. That was really a wonderful and celebratory event. It was great. I have a fifth grader, so I got to participate as a driver, and I'll just tell you, the smiles on the faces of all of the kids and the parents as they were processing through, and then our staff were just so joyful. It was, one of the highlights of the last 3 months for me. I think for our staff, happy to see their students, happy to see each other in person on a beautiful sunny day. really just added to the festive atmosphere. So I want to thank them, and also thank our Wilton Police and our Wilton CERT team for providing logistical support to keep everybody safe and to make sure that it all worked. So really grateful. Similarly, Lauren Phelps and her team organized today a materials return, and this is something they've been working on over a period of days. But again, having a middle schooler, I got to participate, and that too. We had a group of teachers kind of standing out in the hot sun, but it was a joyful experience, and they weren't doing anything particularly joyful, but the opportunity for them to see their kids and families and to see each other, I think, really went a very long way. And then the third item, which I'm going to speak to in just a minute as part of my prepared remarks, in response to the murder of George Floyd, one of our teachers, Michael Gordon, who's one of our very well-respected music teachers at the middle school, had reached out, and he organized a conversation tonight. And so that began at 5 o'clock and ended right about 7 o'clock. And I had the privilege of participating for the first 15, 20 minutes or so. But there were 100 people that were on that call. And the reason it was capped at 100 was because of the nature of the account. And I strongly suspect that, if we used our webinar account, we would have had probably several hundred people participate. So strong indicator to me that there's a hunger in this community to take on the work of equity and inclusion and anti-racism. And that leads me to, I just want to revisit some of my prepared remarks, if that's okay. Like you, Debbie, we join, the rest of our nation in expressing our horror and outrage caused by the senseless act of violence that stole George Floyd's life. We've been horrified and also deeply saddened by the violence springing up around the country in response. And as you said, the meaning and significance of those protests are overshadowed when they devolve into violence. Racism, discrimination, intolerance, and bigotry must be eradicated, and we all have a shared obligation and a role to play in that work. As a school system, our primary mission is to educate. We are and we remain committed to the work of equity, inclusion, and justice, and we're using this time to reaffirm our commitment and redouble our efforts to ensure that our schools are places where all feel welcomed and seen. As many of you know, over the last several years, many of our staff have been engaged in revisiting curriculum materials to ensure greater inclusion of perspective and voices. And more recently, we've begun the hard work of engaging in dialogue around racial injustice. This past January, we inaugurated an equity and inclusion team to help facilitate these conversations across the district. Many at that time had stepped forward to participate in this effort. And I want to take just a second again to recognize Michael, who volunteered to co-chair that work and is a strong voice in leading it. As I mentioned just a minute ago, we were able to have a first conversation tonight, and I'm sure those will continue. And given the volume of participants and the desire to participate, I am sure there are many in this community who are ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work. So we look forward, and certainly we'll put this on an agenda, and the board will have an opportunity to wade far more deeply into the waters of that discussion. I also wanted to let the board know, and the community who's listening, under Maria Coleman's leadership for the last several years, we've been scrutinizing our hiring practices, and we've committed to new and different strategies in an attempt to recruit and hire new staff members that reflect the diversity in our educational community. So it's important that we continue to confront these issues head on. Clearly, from the interest that developed over the course of the school year and the evidence from tonight's capacity crowd and the Zoom call, people are hungry and they're ready for it. And so we will lead this work in our schools and with our community partners as we head into summer and then plan for the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll look forward to further discussions. Moving on to committee reports. I know we didn't have a business ops meeting, or I missed it, right, Glenn?
No. Teaching and that's the only committee that's met since the board.
Okay, thank you. Jen, or Jen, do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, sure. We met on Tuesday. We talked about 3 things really. First thing was the ELA curriculum review. Karen Brennicke provided an overview of the process, and she will present to the full board in the coming weeks. We also talked about the parent survey, which was an opportunity for our families to offer feedback about e-learning and how it went and possible changes or whatnot. That's open until tomorrow if you haven't done it yet. And the last thing we talked about was representation on the re-entry committees. And while we can't have everybody in our town serving on committees, we have a lot of great ideas within our community. So we talked about trying to find a way to, whether it's an email or some sort of way for our community throughout this process to offer suggestions and feedback. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And policy, I'm assuming as a committee did not meet? Okay, all right. All right, so that leads us, speaking about planning for reopening. We're coming up on the summer, and I'm not sure if there's an update on ESY plans. Andrea or Kevin, I'm sorry, however you want to handle this.
I'll make a preliminary comment and say, I think it was 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, we received revised guidance for summer school. It was even more stringent than the original guidance we received a week or two ago, which really pushed back by several days our timeline for making a decision about, what we're going to run and how we're going to run it. So I'll stop there and let Andrea pick up that thread.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We did receive updated guidance from the State Department of Education on June 2nd. And so we have been wading through that guidance and working with our partners in terms of parents and the Board of Health, the Department of Health, our medical advisors, Barbara Shum, to make some decisions about what we can do. I have been in close contact and collaboration with all of our neighboring school districts to get a sense of what they were attempting or able to do. And, we continue to strive to try to do as, to try to do some face-to-face ESY services and supports for our students with disabilities. We are attempting to meet all the challenges presented in that document and to maintain the #1 priority, which is the health and safety of our students and staff. So we are working on it. We have a parent forum scheduled for Monday afternoon with the parents of children with disabilities to gain some insight from them and to dialogue with them about the potential for differing models of support and service. And then we will continue to work with the Department of Health, our town medical advisor, and Barbara Shum next week to finalize and to make some final decisions about what we will be able to do. And we'll have definitive answers on things like PPE and protective equipment, not only for the basic level of PPE, but also for our educators who work and must work in close proximity to students who may not be able to wear a mask. So we're going to need to address higher levels of PPE for them, and we're working on that. We're working with Jose Figueroa and Chris Burney on the operational side, looking at space, looking at rooms, looking at flow, looking at cleaning procedures and bathroom procedures. So it is a daunting task, a lot of detail work, but the team in the Student Services Department, the parents, and the community is all working together to do the best we can for our kids this summer.
Okay. Questions or comments for Andrea?
Yeah, Andrea, a quick question, not necessarily about ESY, but one of the schools that has that deals or welcomes our one of our students that needs outplacement has brought them back to the school. The school is reopened, I guess, so the service is being provided. Are there a number of our students who are outplaced who have now gone, who were home but have been able to go back to their facilities? Do you know, or?
No, most of our students, most of our outplacements continue to function in a distance learning environment. Most of our outplacement students will continue through the summer. Their ESY services have already been decided by their schools that they will continue in an e-learning format. They just don't think they have the capacity to meet the requirements and maintain the health and safety of their students and staff.
Okay.
And we actually have one of the approved special education schools in the area has decided as a result of COVID and all the requirements that they will be closing their doors permanently. So those students, we are working with those families to find alternative educational opportunities for them. So we'll be working with them. So it is a moving target, and yeah, we're getting different information, good and not so good every day, and we're working with the families individually to respond to that information.
All right. Well, the best to you. I know can't be easy. What a challenge.
It's a challenge, but we're up to the task. We have a great team.
I believe so. Thank you. All right. Thanks. That's it.
Any other comments?
I have a question for Andrea and Kevin. So were you guys expecting this updated information, or I just feel like we're at the hands of the state. So we have one plan and then they give an updated plan. Do we have any idea of what the schedule for the future looks like as far as from the state?
A great question. I think after the first round of guidance was issued about summer school, a number of us had, about 500,000 questions. And so, kind of working through our appropriate organizations, we had provided some feedback to the state. And so we did get word some time ago that they were going to be providing some updated guidance. And I wasn't fully expecting, what came down. And, quite frankly, some of the language has changed. And so it's not really guidance at this point. There's a series of rules that we have to follow. And at the end of a fairly lengthy document, there's an attestation form that we need to complete. And, that's particularly worrisome for me. And it reminded me of the attestation that we would have had to sign if we wanted a 180-day waiver, prior to the commissioner granting waivers for everybody. And I think, we just want to be sure that any program we're going to provide in person, we can truly and genuinely meet all the health and safety standards that are in place. And so, it's just slowed us down a little bit. We really need to think. We always think carefully, but we really need to, really scrutinize a little more carefully.
And Kevin, is that attestation for just the ESY, or do you think there'll be something like that for the fall?
It's for summer school. It's hard to say at this point. My best understanding as of tonight is that the Reopening Connecticut Committee that's addressing plans for the fall. I was told they're meeting tomorrow and that they'll be reviewing a draft of a plan tomorrow, and potentially that could go to the governor's office, and then it's got to kind of wind its way through a process there before the rest of us get to see it. So I'm hopeful. Today's June 4th. Maybe best case we'll have something by mid-June. But there's been no I think when asked we've been told we'll get it as soon as it's ready. But there's no clear timeline about other than kind of maybe mid-month.
Andrea, I think I've asked you this before. Remind me about how many students in a traditional year would avail themselves of ESY?
In a typical year, we serve probably close to 350, 400 students in ESY, pre-K through 21. And that is a wide variety of levels of support and service, from very minimal support and service, perhaps a little bit of speech and language once a week, to comprehensive services 6 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week for 6 weeks. So it's a wide array of supports and services individually designed based on student needs.
Can I ask you what your overall impression or knowledge is about the progress that students were able to make with presence learning during, since March 11th? Do you feel that that was successful? Are kids able to hold their own? Are they moving forward?
Yes. Not just presence learning. I think presence learning gave us a a way in to many of our students who receive related services and direct special education instruction. But it was one piece of a comprehensive educational and instructional system. The students who responded well to that instruction have made tremendous progress. And actually, I get a lot of feedback from parents and from students that they're seeing a tremendous growth, even an accelerated growth, as a result of the work being done through the platform. I have to say, it is a platform. Presence learning, like anything else, is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
The power is between the teacher and the student. The growth and power comes from that interaction. The platform gives us a mechanism to bridge the two when they can't be face to face. So the work that the special ed department, the related services people, speech and language, OT, the work that they have done is nothing short of awe-inspiring. They are showing the world what is special about special education.
Thank you. Any other questions for Andrea? All right, Andrea, good luck with your decision making. I've been on some calls with other board chairs. Some districts are choosing to remain online. And some districts are where we are, like just trying to figure it out and perhaps doing it for subsets of the population. All right, so we'll look for another update. Can you have it as soon as next week, or is that pushing it?
That is our hope. The parents need it. They need to know what's going to happen. And I was hoping we'd be able to do it this week, but the guidance slowed us down a bit. So next week is the planned. We'll make final decisions and get information into the hands of parents next week.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I guess that was just the appetizer, because now we're talking about all of us reopening in August 24th, as Kevin keeps reminding me. I'm not sure what the update is, but Kevin.
Great. So we'll go back in time a week, and Fran provided a very good, solid update on our work in shifting the instructional model to blended learning. And so, we'll give her the week off, and, we'll revisit our progress with Schoology training and blended learning at the end of the month. I'd like to do three things. Start with Maria, who's chairing several committees, Chuck, who's responsible for a couple of committees, have them provide updates. And then we'll conclude with my update from our Goal 1 committee that met for the third time yesterday, of which you got to participate. And we'll have you and Ruth also just kind of weigh in on the conversations. We're describing some of the logistics and what we're planning for here, at least attempting to. So why don't we start with Maria, please?
Sure. So as I shared a few weeks ago, I'm either chairing or co-chairing 3 of the subcommittees: wellness, staffing, and coordination and communication. And our committees have been meeting regularly, actually on a weekly basis. The committees at this point have been really the core group of, typically about 4 to 6 people. We've been developing sort of a framework that we want to weave larger groups into so that they can give us feedback as we move through the process. For example, the Coordination and Communication Committee met recently with our District Emergency Operations Committee, which includes a number of staff members, not only from across the district, but we have law enforcement, we have community members. And so we've gotten feedback from them and have plans to continue to do that throughout the summer. Our Wellness Committee includes Kim Zemo, our school safety and climate coordinator, as well as members of the mental health teams and some teachers from across the district. We are going to leverage our district wellness committee as well, and we have plans to reach out to some community agencies, because we're going to need their resources throughout this effort as well. In addition, we have plans to reach out to parents and even students for the wellness committee as well. One of the, I think, more recent developments since the last time I reported out is that we developed a survey for both staff and families so that we could solicit feedback on how the e-learning environment was received, what the impact of it has been, what the impact of this global pandemic has been on people, and you know, what the readiness levels are as people anticipate returning to school in the fall. And so we administered that last Friday. It's the surveys are running for a week. So we have just about 24 hours more. We actually have a very good response rate. I think as of a little earlier today, we had about 350 of our nearly 600 staff members who had responded, which is actually very good. And we're looking at things like, you know, what the impact has been on people, what their readiness level is to return, what their readiness level is to support students as they come back in, because naturally students have been through trauma, staff members have been through trauma throughout this. And so we need to think about what types of professional learning we need to provide, what types of support we need to provide. In addition, from a staffing standpoint, we've been thinking about who might be impacted if their own children are home and there are school closures. And so staff members may not be able to physically return to work because they have young children to care for. We've also been exploring some out-of-the-box options, like whether there's interest in on-site childcare, should we need to provide that in order to get people back to work, whether there's interest in job sharing. And these are really just things that we're exploring. There's nothing that we've committed to, but we recognize that now more than ever, we need to entertain all possibilities. We need to be very creative in trying to create an environment that's going to support all staff members and students so that this effort can be as successful as possible. So we look forward to reporting out in the weeks to come, but we think we've got a good framework. And you know, as things move forward and we get more direction from the state, whatever that is, it may not be as much as we're hoping for, but as we're getting more information, it helps us to solidify our plans. And you know, hopefully we'll have some consistency across the state in terms of what the models look like, so that, you know, even when we look at staff availability, hopefully there will be some consistency and we're not having all school districts running their own schedules that look very different. So that's where we are at this point. And we're already beginning to review the survey data and looking forward to completing that review early next week.
Maria, I have a quick question. Do you think that there might be a chance for teachers or faculty who might have to take an FMLA or be unable to come back to work due to their family situations, whether with their children or with their parents or other members of the family?
Yep, and in fact, there are laws, you know, the laws have changed that are directly related to that. There's the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which requires that we provide staff members paid leave for issues related to coronavirus or having to care for family members that have been impacted by it. There's expanded FMLA. So that certainly is a possibility. We've already had staff members during this closure period who've had to you know, take advantage of that for different reasons. And I would anticipate that that would continue, particularly if, you know, we're seeing a resurgence in, you know, the rates of infection in the fall and throughout the school year. So yes, I would anticipate that.
And Maria, I just had a question, and this might be a question that's broader than your committee.
Mm-hmm.
But you said that you hope that there would be some type of guidance or direction from the state in terms of schedule and what that schedule may look like in a coordinated fashion.
Yes.
And everything that I've been seeing put out does not lend me to believe that that will be the, you know, the eventual case. And I was just wondering if we have like a platform or if there's a structure in place where we are talking with our neighboring towns or even Fairfield County, just, you know, as we're trying to figure out what our schedule would be, knowing that there's a lot of teachers and families that kind of, you know, live and work within the area, and if there's, you know, opportunities for kind of coordination on that level.
Yes, absolutely. Oh.
weigh in? Do you mind before you?
No, please do.
Two things. The recommendation from the State Superintendent's Association to the Commissioner of Education was that, you know, the state cost out, you know, a variety of models, but they recommend a single model, and that was the recommendation for a variety of reasons. But you know, one is for the simple fact that teachers live across borders, and if we're running, you know, multiple models, then it's going to be very, very challenging for folks to get to work in light of childcare. So what I'm told, and you know, again, it's not official until it's official and in print and we see it, but you know, what I've been told as I've been making inquiries is that the state seems to be likely to select a model and then deliver that to districts as the model. So we'll have to wait and see kind of what that looks like, but that seems they're going. And then, you know, Marie can speak to this, you know, kind of, you know, her group, but each of us, Chuck, myself, Andrea, Maria, we all belong to both kind of Fairfield County consortia of our counterparts. And so we meet regularly, Fran similarly with the tech directors. And so we have lots of opportunity formally, you know, through those mechanisms to interface, share information and try to coordinate. And then certainly informally through the relationships we develop, we do a lot of communicating and, you know, have a lot of attempts to try to just share resources and, you know, coordinate as possible.
That's encouraging because the language that had been put in a lot of the reopened concerning ESY and other types of programs seem to kind of dictate, you know, talk about more of a district-wide, yeah, plan.
Right. I'm noticing I'm having connectivity issues. So if I get disconnected, I'll try to jump right back in. But I just wanted to be clear that we're while it would be ideal for us to have, you know, one plan across the state and more guidance from the state, we're not waiting for that. So we're just finding that we're planning for so many different scenarios. It makes it very challenging. And the little bits of direction that we've gotten so far, I think have been even tremendously helpful just to get a sense of what we're looking at. And the other piece that I wanted to add is that I meet weekly with the area human resources directors from, you know, Darien, New Canaan, Weston, Westport, and we have, I'm sorry, not Weston, but all the others. We do have our weekly meetings and we're able to compare where we are in the process and what approach each district is taking. So that's been a nice resource to be able to access as well.
Maria, I have one more question about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Is there a date by which the teachers need to, or by anyone needs to tell you that they are interested in looking into that?
You know, that's interesting that you should say that because the law is changing like weekly. You know, the guidance has changed regularly. It's actually, it's a very open law in terms of its ability to be utilized by any staff member, and it's pretty liberal. You know, even typical FMLA requires a lot of paperwork and a lot of verification. And what we're finding is that while some of that is in place, the laws have not wanted to bog down doctors who are already having a difficult time seeing patients. Yeah. And they also have wanted to work in favor of encouraging employees to stay home if they need to stay home. You know, if employees are worried that they're going to go unpaid, then they might be incentivized to come to work if they're sick. Yeah. And so the laws have really been designed right now to encourage people to stay home. So what I would say is everything that I've seen up until this point has been more and more just, I think there's been a lot of flexibility in the extent to which people are able to take advantage of it, going so far as even to allow people to take paid leave, partial paid leave through expanded FMLA that could then work concurrently with paid sick leave. So the laws are really designed right now to try to protect employees, to try to protect their pay, and to try to ensure that people who are sick stay home and people who are exposed to family members who are sick stay home. I hope that helps. You know, yeah. I think if I get into the nitty gritty, I almost have to draw a diagram to help you.
No, I know. I mean, I'm dealing with it in my company. I'm just curious if there's been a date that you're asking teachers to submit a query that they're interested in taking advantage of that. But I know it's not that simple. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Maria? Is Maria gone? I think.
She may have dropped. Yes.
Okay. All right. My
She's
only
like,
question.
I'm out of here.
Like her head exploded. My question would be, if people need to be flexible in terms of coming to work, not coming to work, taking leaves, et cetera, we have to think about, it seems to me anyway, about substitutes and what that pool is like. On a good day, we don't have enough. So, just sort of trying to plan the personnel needs. All right, I'm going to stop. Kevin, who's next?
We're going to turn things over to Chuck for a few minutes here to give.
Okay.
And
Hi,
Chuck,
Chuck.
share your screen, correct?
Yes.
So let me.
Everyone.
I think,
Hi, Chuck.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
yeah, hold on. I'll get you squared away here. Oh, you know what? I don't know. I don't seem to have the capacity to do that. I can put you on hold. I can remove you. I can change you to an attendee. Seal.
I just did it.
All right, go ahead, Chuck. You should be all set now.
Great, thank you. All right, so I am in charge of 3 goals. Goals 3, 4, and 5, and they basically deal with curriculum assessment and remediation. And so I think you're getting the sense that even though we have these separate committees and separate goals, they are very intertwined and dependent on one another. And for the goal areas that I'm addressing and that my committees are addressing, we're trying to do that in a more integrated way. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is through what we're calling re-entry units. So when kids come back in September, whether it's in the bricks and mortar or whether we are still in a remote situation, we want to develop units that will help students to re-enter and kind of set the reset button for how we're going to move forward. And these units are going to be developed by the coordinators, the ILs, and the coaches for the teachers. And the basic goal of these re-entry units will be for teachers and students to learn how to engage in Schoology in a blended learning environment, and trying to sort out how do we do teacher-directed lesson components and student-directed lesson components in a way that makes sense depending upon whether we are in person or remotely. We need to keep in mind that even if the kids are in school, we have to be careful about sharing materials, about how close people are to one another. So we will probably be developing and delivering the content through Schoology, whether we're in school, out of school, or some combination of both. These reentry units will also help teachers and students to practice posting materials and submitting student work. We're going to introduce and practice instructional routines because this will be a little different in Schoology. Another big part of this will be to identify student learning gaps through program and classroom assessments, and I'll share more of that with you in a minute. Overall, we want to make sure we're being responsive to student needs and to recognize that they're going to vary by developmental level and subject area. And I think most importantly, we want these units to incorporate opportunities for teachers to connect with students in a very unusual set of circumstances and to address their social and emotional needs. Now, these units will vary somewhat by subject area, by developmental area, and by subject area. They may last a couple of weeks. They may last as long as 4 weeks. But as I mentioned, those are going to be basically developed for the teachers. And we're doing that because the teachers are on the steep learning curve with Schoology. And we don't have a lot of time for teachers to work on getting these units designing them and loading them into Schoology. However, after that first unit, we'll be then moving into the first formal academic units. And those will be developed by the teachers with support from the coaches and the coordinators and the IOs. I think the challenge for teachers will be designing their units and aligning their lessons to the particular learning context that they find themselves in. We want them to establish learning outcomes based upon priority standards and the identified student learning gaps that were identified during the first unit. Excuse me. In terms of priority standards, I think we need to recognize that no matter what situation we're in next year, we're probably not going to be able to deliver the curriculum the way we would if we were in a traditional setting. This is going to be hard next year for everybody. And so we have to focus on the most important standards. We are in the process of developing a Schoology course template, or actually a series of course templates. And this is where the different committees have to work together. So in the Schoology subcommittee, the Schoology committee, there's a subcommittee around curriculum and assessment. And that committee is developing the templates for the teachers. How we organize things within Schoology will probably vary depending upon the subject area and the developmental levels of the students. And we want teachers to think about how they can utilize high leverage instructional routines in a new platform, and how to do strategic assessment and how to provide feedback. And I'll talk more about that in 1 minute. So let's look at, for instance, what we've done in ELA. This is the workflow for ELA. And you'll notice here, we've already developed that reentry unit for, what is it, grade 4 writing. Well, I think it's grade 5 writing. Where we have the goals, the essential understandings and questions, what students will know and be able to do, how we will be conducting assessment during that time, as well as the learning plan for the students. Another one would be, let's say, 3rd grade reading. Again, the units developed here, all the way down to the assessment evidence, how we will be going about doing that, and then the learning plan. I've also met with all of the district ILs, the FAPA people, PE, and world language, and they are in the process of developing the same sort of reentry units. Now, part of this has to do with professional learning. So we've begun to map out for next year what our professional learning time is going to be. You know, as I mentioned before, it's not possible for us to load the entire curriculum into Schoology for the teachers over the summer. So we're going to have to think about how we can find time within the calendar that we have to give teachers time to get support in how to use Schoology and design their lessons and their units in that new platform. And so we've begun to map that out for next year. And you'll see here, this is kind of a one-page overview of the days. What we do is we then take that and we plan it out in detail by school. And we've begun to fill out all of those days and begin to identifying the topics that will be covered in that. And that goes all the way across all subject areas. Now, in thinking about professional learning for next year, our thought was to do this in stages. So between now and September, what we want our teachers to know and be able to do is to navigate Schoology, engage with their students, and establish routines and instructional practices. Beginning in September and through November, we want to help them to use learning targets and students' assessments effectively in Schoology. And then from November to February, how to do goal setting and student feedback and using student performance rubrics. So that's basically those two first goals around curriculum and assessment. In terms of intervention, we've had one meeting of the academic interventionists across the school district, and we've begun to talk about how we're going to handle some of the issues that we know are going to come up. So for instance, it's likely that when we do our assessments in the fall, and a larger number of students will probably qualify for intervention compared to the numbers that had qualified in previous years, simply because of what we're calling the COVID slide. So there's a couple of things we need to think about. I'm reluctant to increase staffing or to increase group size for the interventionists. That would, increasing group size would defeat the purpose of intervention, and I just don't think we have the budget or the capacity to onboard a whole bunch of new academic interventionists. So it's likely what we're going to do is to lower the benchmark so that the interventionists can continue to be effective in meeting the needs of our most struggling learners. That said, there's going to be a number of students who are still below grade level. So our initial thought is that for a period of time at the beginning of the school year, the first several weeks, the interventionists will probably be redeployed to provide support to the general ed teachers in designing intervention programs that the general ed teachers can deliver within the classroom. These will probably be the students who are closest to benchmark and, just below benchmark. The interventionists will still see our neediest learners, but because they can't see everybody who we anticipate will technically score below benchmark, we want to give them some time to build some capacity in the general ed classroom to work with those students. We've also begun discussing about discussing ways in which the intervention itself could be more effective in a remote learning situation. And most of that involves exploring, so for instance, one of our major intervention programs is something called leveled literacy intervention. What we're exploring is the digital version of that so that we can deliver this more effectively. Certainly a big part of intervention has to do with assessment and progress monitoring. So the interventionists have broken into subgroups to figure out ways in which we can remotely assess and progress monitor kids in the most effective way. And so that's where we are right now with those three particular goals.
Good, God.
Chuck, I have two questions.
Sure.
First would be, I'd love to leave open the possibility of increasing our number of interventionists. I know we've talked about this a number of times and the concern of the gap and having a larger number of children who are going to have a gap. And I know we as a board have set aside money just in case, not solely for that, but just in case like things come up, and I would love to leave that as an open possibility.
I'm not closing off the possibility at all. I would just ask the board to think very carefully. Onboarding new interventionists takes time and effort. And given the current circumstances we're in, I just would like to think very carefully about how we could do that effectively. I wouldn't want to put our neediest learners in front of people who we haven't trained appropriately or oriented appropriately. So it's just something I want us to think about.
That's fine. And we could think about maybe who was better suited for different students. My second thought is when do we find out what we're not teaching our kids and what we would, like in a normal situation, what we would be teaching them?
So part of it is the coordinators and coaches have already identified the priority standards, but part of it also has to be informed by what we see as the learning gaps when the kids come back.
But I know did you guys scale down what you were introducing to your kids?
Yes, but it was only for that part of the year from March to June.
Okay, so are we?
Yeah, the coordinators have already done that. They've identified the priority standards that would be addressed from September to June.
Okay.
But we also have to think about when the kids come back, if we see there are major learning gaps, we may have to reprioritize things because I don't know how much time it will be to cover that material when we see what the kids need.
Right. At some point, can you guys share with us what we didn't introduce and maybe you're not going to be able to introduce? Just as a parent myself, like I'm sure that people out there would love to know what are some things that we on our own could introduce our kids to.
Sure.
Maybe they're not going to have an opportunity to receive that instruction from school right now.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Other comments?
I was just curious, what would be the lift or the resource need to have everything kind of loaded in Schoology over the summer? To, you know, to have the curriculum there, like said, it's not something that we could do over the summer.
So part of the
would doing that over the summer make a difference?
So the actual curriculum, the units are already in Schoology. What the teachers need to do is they need to create their courses. So teachers have lots of materials and resources that they like to use. They like to sequence their lessons in a certain way depending upon the kids who are in front of them. The issue is time. Each individual teacher or a group of teachers in what we call an IET needs time to think through because it's a different platform. Their units are currently written for face-to-face, for the most part, interaction with students. So they need time to kind of design this, take the Schoology template, load their resources, and then design their lessons. It's not something that we could do for teachers, and I don't think they would want us to do it for. That's why it's so important that we revisit this issue of the professional learning calendar at some point and decide how can we provide teachers with time throughout the year to kind of figure out and do this work.
Okay, any other comments? I went to one committee meeting. I substituted for Mandy, and then listening tonight. And I know we're going to get through this, and my usual optimistic self will prevail. But I think tonight we're looking. You know, we've just heard 3 or 4 different reports. One, Andrea is looking at, you know, how can she protect the health and safety of students given the state, you know, health guidance, and health and safety does come first. And then we hear Maria talking about, well, there are childcare issues and there's leave issues. And, you know, so my takeaway is we may not have a full complement of staff, or we're not going to have a full complement of staff that's on board on a regular basis. And then, you know, Chuck, I think the line that stunned me was, and this is not a criticism, but we're already talking about not delivering the curriculum that we normally would and lowering the benchmark for kids who need intervention, both of which are just antithetical to what our normal world would be. So I am all for creativity, and I'm all for energy, and I'm all for, you know, giving it yeoman's effort. And so I have a feeling that we're sort of probably at our lowest point at this point because we are so much in the dark, and we can only hope that it will, you know, get clear as we go forward. And if anyone can do it, it is absolutely our staff. But we just can't diminish how huge these obstacles are. And we have to leave ourselves some planning time. Just simple hiring people, training people, writing lesson plans, all of that, all of these things are going to take time before the kids arrive. So where do we find that? So again, you know, this is only something that we can keep plugging at, and we're not going to give up, and we are going to get better, and I understand all that. But I think I'm a little overwhelmed at just the complexity and the obstacles in front of us. And that is not to diminish from our team or to say that we don't support you. We absolutely do. So, you know, let us know what we as a board can do. We have got to communicate on a regular basis with parents so they understand we need their partnership more than ever. you know, we'll get it down, but right now it's a little overwhelming, at least for this board member. So there I am.
Well, yeah, you're not alone, Deborah.
Okay, thanks.
Trust me.
Thanks. Kevin, can you give us some good news to end on, or, you know, like?
Give you, and yes, I absolutely. I always have good news.
Of course.
You know, that's my good news. And, you know, I just stand back and, you know, watch and kind of marvel at what's been done already and the ingenuity we've seen among our staff. So, you know, I think right now we're standing at the bottom of a very steep mountain. But, you know,
Good way of putting it.
Yeah. And it is daunting. And, you know, I'm going to kind of take you through a brief update that's only going to add to the complexity. And but we'll get there. I know we will. We are in the midst of putting together a very good. And so I think, you know, your point, I guess two that I would react to. Number one, with regard to the approved calendar for next year, you know, I've asked Maria and a group here to look at that. And while we don't have a recommendation yet, we may come back, you know, in very short order and say, you know, we need another day at the start of the year, or we need to move something else in order to accommodate a bit more time. And so, you know, we may make a recommendation for a minor adjustment to the total school calendar.
Okay.
And then I think that, you know, the second piece is, you know, I'm glad that you are naming the enormity and the complexity of the task that is set before us. And so as we continue to communicate with you through these forum, we'll also continue to communicate weekly with our families in the communication that Maria's been sending out on Fridays. And we'll use that vehicle primarily just to share information. And then as we scale up, you know, we'll provide webinars and other opportunities to really bring people into the mix and get a clearer look at what we're anticipating and, you know, each of those more discrete details.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate all the different goal committees that are working, and of course they overlap and intertwine, but the thinking that we're hearing is as good as it gets. So, you know, thank you to the whole team. You know, you guys are being creative and being adventurous, you know, just leading us forward. So thank you. But we've got a lot of tough decisions to make as we move forward.
Yeah, so the last piece that I would share with you, just a very brief recap. Andre and I are chairing the Goal 1 committee, and the charge of that committee really is to contemplate the long list of health and safety considerations that need to be addressed in order to bring students and staff back into a building safely. And so we're guided by the CDC guidance and decision tree. We've laid out some, I think, you know, pretty self-evident assumptions about school being, you know, disrupted next year. We're following, as it becomes available, not only the guidance from the state and the federal government, but also the literature that's emerging from other states and countries around the globe that are in the midst of their own reopening processes. And beyond that, we're also tracking, you know, any spikes or resurgences in COVID-19 where, you know, states have begun to reopen. And so trying to read the tea leaves and really anticipate as best we're able all of the factors that we need to consider and what we might anticipate when we start to bring people back to the building. So the way we've set this committee up, we've started with just kind of a laundry list of considerations, and we've been working through them very linearly, and a number of them overlap. And so they start with health and safety concerns. So that's where we began 3 weeks ago. Last week, we had some good conversation around the economic hardship on families and the kind of various factors that contribute to that. We spent almost the entire meeting discussing the potential for childcare needs and childcare opportunities. And this most recent week that you, Debbie, had an opportunity to participate, and I'm grateful to Ruth, she's been present for all of them. We really started to drill down more deeply into the health and behavioral concerns and questions. And we spent a good chunk of this last meeting just talking about health and safety screening. And the committee is comprised of several of you, several administrators. We have a number of parents. We also have our medical professionals. While Barry Bogle wasn't able to make the panel, he was able to dial in and listen. So he's up to speed and the kinds of things that we're thinking about. We also have some good public health policy expertise on our committee as well. And so, all of those perspectives combine to really generate quite a rich list of considerations. And so that was the work and the conversation that we were engaged in. We're going to try to take the next 2 Wednesdays to kind of finish our list. And in the meantime, we're taking each of these pieces and turning them into a discrete action plan. And so that action plan will really probably mirror more of a checklist than anything else. And we'll assign, individuals responsibility areas for each of the items. In the meantime, just knowing that state guidance is coming, but as Maria had named earlier, we really can't wait for it for some of our decisions. So I've been in touch with Mike Vincelli, who is the Director of Emergency Management for the Westport Weston Health Department. He has sent me some information on PPE, so we're going to work through him and the vendors that they're using to explore PPE. We've gotten some information from some other vendors, and so we're going to start to acquire materials now. In addition to that, Chris Burney, our facilities director, is working with Turner Construction. They're doing some work both on the town side and will be coming into our schools to take measurements and make some recommendations around things like plexiglass barriers and signage and the like. And then we have Jose Figueroa and some of our custodial staff mocking up classrooms so we can look at arrangement and layout and really pay close attention to social distancing requirements. Yeah, so there's a piece of them just went out of my head. And then we're working with the bus company and thinking about transportation. So things are, now in motion. And then, the great hope is that once we, get some clarity from the State Department of Education, we'll really ramp up into high gear and be able to make some better decisions based on, what comes down from the state. So let's see if there's anything in particular here. I think, the structure of just this conversation, it's we kind of, list our ideas, wonder, raise some questions, raise some secondary questions, and then all of that will feed into a to-do list action plan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long list.
I will end, Debbie, with a note of positivity.
Okay.
It is a long list and it is daunting. And every time you think you can land the plane, it takes off on you again. But we will, I have absolute faith that and belief that we can work through it and we'll get there. And decisions will be made and slowly things will be gamed out and planned out. And, my children want to be back in school. They don't really care how it is, what it looks like. All of us, we want them in there. We want them learning. We want them to be able to continue their learning when they're home, if that needs to be the case too. And I think that as a town and as a community, we'll make it happen. It will happen, and it won't be easy, and it won't look like how we thought it looked like today. It's not going to look like how we thought it's going to look like tomorrow. But I think that we all just have such good intentions for our children and just want, what is, best for them for both health and safety and social and emotional, and also their education, the educational
Mm-hmm.
piece as well. And just seeing how many people, the various people who sit on these committees and, their backgrounds and what they bring, we have the tools in the box.
Right. No, I think if anybody can do it, Wilton can do it. So thank you for that, Ruth.
If I may, please. I guess the $64,000 question that remains is, are we in fact going to reopen? And when will we get a definitive answer on that from the state? We have 80 days until August 24th, which is supposed to be our first day from today. And the amount of work that has to be done in those next 80 days to prepare us is just monumental. I have no doubt that our staff, our team, our organization, both city and the educational group, can make it happen if we need to, and we do. But I guess the question is, why is the state not, why haven't they definitively decided what the guidelines are going to be, what the requirements are going to be, to enable us to do our job effectively and get ready for it? Yeah, I was flabbergasted. You know, the state of Maryland has come out with a definitive plan for reopening, boom, boom, all the specs laid out, all the details laid out, everything there, 25 pages of requirements, expectations, etc. And we're not. Connecticut just hasn't done it yet. And I'm mind boggled by that. And the question becomes, are we going to reopen or are we not? And when is that decision going to be made? And when are the guidelines and the requirements definitively going to come from the state that give us our roadmap of what we need? I have no doubt that we can do whatever they spell out for us. I mean, the work that Maria's done, the work that Chuck's done, the work that you've done, Kevin, the work that everyone has done to date, getting ready for what may happen, is remarkable. And how you do it remotely, it's mind-boggling. It really is. But the question becomes, where's the state? What are they doing to us? And why can't we get the necessary response from them? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, you know, I think, you know, if you can think back over years as Connecticut has, you know, suffered through year after year of budget woes, the State Department of Education has been, you know, one of the areas that's been, there's just not a lot of staff there to do the work. You know, I think, you know, as you just heard described over the last 45 minutes, you know, those folks are wrestling with the same issues that we are. And so I'm, you know, while I really like to have good guidance in hand now, I would have liked it a month ago. I'm sympathetic to the struggle to get a plan in place.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and to some extent,
on us.
Right. And to some extent, they have to follow the science, which keeps changing.
Yeah.
So it's anyway. All right. Are there any other comments? I think there are some, you know, we have to continue to think outside the box. I've heard questions about, you know, are we sure we need our bus transportation system? You know, is that a good, you know, if any community could do without a bus system, it seems like it might be Wilton. You know, but I know legally we are required to provide kids the way to school. But then if it comes with bus monitors and plexiglass and 10 kids on a bus, at what point is that not quite worth it? So anyway, that's just one example of hard decisions that we'll have to, you know, to confront. But it is 9 o'clock and it is almost summer, and we started the meeting, you know, celebrating all sorts of good end of the year stuff. And we're looking forward to it all culminating next week, Bob, you're it, with graduation. And we'll certainly have plenty of meetings to go around. So I guess what I need to do is ask if there are any comments from the public. Lucille, did we get any tonight? Okay. All right. So we've gone through the agenda. We know what our next meeting is. By the way, it's next Thursday. So we'll come back energized, and in the meantime, you know, keep doing the good work, and thanks to everybody, you know, including all the board members for all the committees and the extra work that you're putting in. Okay, so I am adjourning the meeting. Good night.
Good night. Good night, Kevin. Keep
Good night.
Thank you.
Keep going, Kevin.
Thank
Good
you.
night, all.
Absolutely.
Good night, all.